Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to do a video talking about where middle-aged animators go after their careers in Hollywood have basically ended. And we're seeing animators kind of pushed out of the industry before their time. Because it used to be that if you were an older animator, a veteran, you were seasoned, you were in charge. You were showing all the young kids how to do it. Now they don't want that.
No. But this is kind of goes along with the whole, tech and stuff. After a certain age, they would push you out until they found out that some of the younger people didn't know as much as they thought they did.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. We just did a video the other day talking about Chuck Austin. Chuck Austin, who was a veteran animation industry employee, veteran, worked in comics. He was considered the support producer for She-Ra and Kippo and the Wonder Beast at DreamWorks, but he was never really given top billing. Basically, he was a veteran who knew what he was doing. He was brought in to course correct the mistakes of a lot of these younger creators like Noelle Stevenson, who literally had like no real experience, just kind of fell into animation and was given millions of dollars to run a show at 23 or whatever.
Another aspect of it too is the fact that 2D animation is becoming a lost art.
Yes.
And it's harder and harder to find animators that can do that. So when they need them, they have to go in and pull people who are over 40 to bring them back in to figure out how to do that.
Well, yeah, that happened with Mary Poppins.
I know.
When they did, with Mary Poppins, Disney let all their 2D animators go, and then when they did Mary Poppins Returns, they wanted to do a 2D animated, montage like they did in the original Mary Poppins. They had to go bring these people out of retirement because nobody knew how to do it. Nobody at Disney knew how to draw 2D animation anymore. It was ridiculous. So we're going to talk about this because this is definitely, I think, a case of ageism in Hollywood. And it's a very real thing. So before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 170,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about the animation industry. We talk about comics. We talk about pop culture, whatever interests us. And we have been talking about the animation industry because we're animation fans.
Right.
We are big fans. And I'm pretty excited about a lot of the stuff that's coming out from the streaming services because a lot of it is coming from industry vets. People with decades and decades of experience that were basically pushed out of Disney, pushed out of DreamWorks.
But luckily, other companies are quick to pick them up, or they're starting their own companies and then they're selling them to places like Netflix.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. So here we go. This was on Cartoon Brew the other day. I thought it was really interesting. And they talked about like what happens to animators over the age of 40, which is sad because back in the day, there were guys working in Disney 60s and 70s, and they knew their stuff. Oh yeah,
the old men and stuff. They
were
there for a long time.
And I just, until recently, I assumed that experience was still valued in the animation industry, and it's not. And this explains, I think, a lot of why we see so many immature weirdos working in the animation industry. Now, they bring these young people in off of social media or Tumblr or whatever, fresh out of school, and they push out the industry vets because get out of the way, old man, it's time for the new.
Right. And if you try to question or point out or say, oh, maybe you should do it this way, you're a boomer, you can't tell me what to think or do. Get out of my way.
Yeah, so they talked to, they had this conference, they had Glenn Keane was in on it, Pete Docter was in on it, and they talked about diversity, they talked about Kobe Bryant and Glenn Keane, but they said about this, old animators are too rare. Sometimes I do wonder where does everyone go over the age of 40, said Tom Moore, who noted that the workforce at his studio Cartoon Saloon, which is in Ireland, is young. I wonder why that is. What's in the culture that's stopping people's progress? I don't think anything is stopping their progress. I think they're being pushed out.
Yeah, I agree. I do like his next comment, though. He'd like to see more opportunities in the industry for disabled people, as do I. Because you always hear about this, how we need representation and diversity, but you see very little representation and diversity for people that are disabled. And I think that I agree with him.
I don't understand why there would be any problem if, again, it's most people working in the industry are basically sitting in a chair doing their stuff.
Right,
it's not like it's, physically demanding or anything. I don't know, but this really got me because this is something, we mentioned just the other day with Chuck Austin. I think he's in his 50s And I'm seeing a lot of it, that these animators are going out and they're either working for other studios outside of Disney, outside of DreamWorks or whatever, or outside of Cartoon Network.
Or they're starting their own.
Or they're starting their own because there's no place else for them to go. They're being pushed out.
So all that knowledge, I mean, like we saw Don Bluth. I mean, it's been going for years, though. We saw Don Bluth, and he went and did his own thing. And, thankfully, he's still keeping, this going and stuff like that. Now we're seeing other animators that are coming into it, too.
Yeah, so now Cartoon Brew is a very good resource if you're in the animation industry or you'd like to be in the animation industry, and they do get professionals on here commenting. So we have this guy just a couple days ago. I guess I'm an old guy at 43. After working as an animator, animation director, designer for years in animation, I just started my own studio.
Yep.
Most of the people my age have become directors and supervisors. Some have shifted their talents to other areas like advertising or graphic design. Some have experienced too much burnout and have left the industry. I don't
blame you.
Yeah, I don't think they're all leaving on their own, though. I'll be honest, just in talking to people.
The hours sometimes are ridiculous, especially anymore. I think that the pay isn't always where it should be. So you can go get a lot more money doing graphic design or advertising. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I know a lot of comic book creators, they left comics too for the same reason, where it was great when you were 20 and you could pull all-nighters and whatever, and I've done it.
Then you have families and you need insurance, and you're not saying that all these places don't give that. I'm just saying that sometimes it makes more financial sense to go someplace else and do something else. That could be part of it.
Any kind of industry like this, I mean, I'm thinking back to just working at newspapers. I worked ridiculous hours, and you weren't real happy with the hours I worked when we first got married, but I worked worse hours before we got married. I mean, I was there like 16 hours a day, weird hours at the different papers I worked at, and there is a lot of burnout, I think, that goes with it.
Well, used to be in comics. Yeah, I remember too. You'd say that so they'd work you to death, and then they'd be like, "You're done."
Yeah, that happens a lot in comics.
Yeah.
It's not like people don't understand these kind of creative fields. They're not, for the most part, they're not normal industries. You don't punch a clock, go in 9 to 5, and then you leave, and then the weekends you don't have to think about it. Especially, animation is this way to some degree, but so is video game development, where you basically live in the studio, and if you want to have any kind of a life, tough shit. I mean, the money might be okay for a lot of people, but it's not.
Well, sometimes. I'm hearing it's not always. And if you're younger, you don't have to pay them as much.
Well, I think what's going on, too, is there's so much outsourcing to other countries now that they can get away with having less experienced animators come in to be showrunners because they're not actually doing the animation. What they're doing is all the burnout, all the problems associated with the industry, it's being outsourced to the Philippines.
Younger talent usually means cheaper talent.
Yes.
That's what I just said. The business side is the driving force. Older or more expensive talent need to adjust their rates or look elsewhere for employment. So they're talking about how many former artists now realtors and doing other things.
Children's books, yep.
I like this last one. Counselor, specializing in marriages between animators and non-animators, spouses and partners.
It's the truth.
You're lucky I have always understood and been mostly supportive.
It's very hard, like working, again, it's comics, animation, video game development, anything like that that's creative and time intensive and deadline driven is frankly a relationship killer. I'm not gonna lie.
It gets better.
Oh, okay.
This is Addison DeWitt as a female. Studio cultures also gear themselves towards younger talent by hosting Bring Your Parents to Work days. I mean, I would, but they're both dead. Diversity and inclusion plans focus on race, LGBTQ, economic issues, etc., but often leave out age in the mix. While many of us will not face the issues that those underrepresented communities have faced in the past and continue to face now, members of those communities will grow old and face a new hurdle: ageism. Ageism is a thing.
It is a thing.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We saw my dad have issues with it. You were in your 30s, and then they were like, "You're over the hill for tech."
Yeah, I worked at a tech company. I was a web developer, and actually, two of the companies, one was a tech company and one was an advertising agency. It was mostly digital marketing. And I was like the old man in my early 30s. This is a true thing though. I was reading that in Silicon Valley, men were getting facelifts in their 30s to try to pass for 20-something because they knew as soon as they hit 30, they were too old for tech.
Which is stupid.
Which is incredibly stupid because especially something like animation, it takes a lifetime to master this. Like decades to be phenomenal. To be on the level of Don Bluth, you have to put decades into it. And to get rid of people, and it's not like you're on camera. It's not like you're an actor that's like, oh, well, you can't play a 25-year-old anymore because you're 80 years old. you're not. You don't know who's actually drawing. And
same with voice acting.
Yeah.
You didn't know who was actually. I mean, the character voices didn't matter, but now you have to stay in your own lane and all that.
Here we go. 40. Yep, that's when the age discrimination starts to kick in for animators, no matter what your skill level and experience may be. By the time you're in your 60s, your career will basically be over unless you're well connected. Save your money while you can. Be prepared with a plan B. This is the same with comics too. It's the same thing. We're seeing so many comic book creators that are in their 50s and 60s that are out of vogue. Their style's out of vogue, and they never save. They don't have any health insurance. It's sad. It's a really sad situation. Jenna says, been in the industry for over 10 years. I can barely even get a senior position. This industry is brutal to those above 40. It's difficult to accept positions that pay so low in an expensive area like San Francisco, LA, and Van Nuys, I guess, or Vancouver, when you have family duties and so on. You would think remote would help the artist, but most places I've seen require you to start remotely, but be in the office when the pandemic is over. So they only want people already in the same city. This, I think, is going to have to change. It's tough out there. I don't see many people my own age. I just turned 40 and I'm scared. It's hard to keep up with the younger animators.
Well, I didn't say scared. It's just hard to keep the younger animators.
I would be scared.
I've been a lead for a couple of years before temporarily going back into an animator role for a few months, and it's been very difficult. I'm planning an escape in case advancement and higher roles such as supervisor or director don't pan out. Studios rely on young and fresh talent to churn out 1,000%, but that only lasts for so long because burnout, which is what we've been saying.
Yep.
Same thing in comics. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, they use you up. They pay you very little. They use you up. They take the best years of your life for very little money. And then, when you start to complain about it, or when you start to think about like, well, maybe I'd like to have a family, maybe I'd like to, do something else besides sit in a damn office for 16 hours a day, then you get kicked out the damn door. Plus it's gig to gig. It's like, just because you're working on a movie or a show doesn't mean you're going to be doing that 5 years from now.
Right.
So this is it right there. They talk about their own studios. And a lot of Disney animators especially are starting their own studios. Of course, we have the folks behind Klaus, which was phenomenal.
Yes.
And that was
it should have won over Toy Story.
It should have. And I think it was Sergio Pablos, was behind that. And he was a Disney animator. He worked on Tarzan. They're doing stuff for streaming. Okay. Of course, we've got, Over the Moon, Glenn Keane's working with Netflix right now. But we also have Skydance. And we did a video on this, Skydance, which is taking a lot of Disney talent, a lot of them, including John Lasseter.
Who are older, by the way.
Who are older. Most of them are older. And they're, starting to do stuff under Skydance. Apple's getting involved.
Yeah, I love how they had the title list. Apple's reportedly in talks with Skydance Animation for 2 films by John Lasseter. Would have been a good title. Then they had to do it. Who left Pixar over sexual harassment issues.
Yeah, then we had this disgusting article from a Hollywood Reporter. And this is like I'm not throwing shade at Pete Docter. I like Pete Docter's work.
Oh, it's not his fault.
It's not his fault. But the reporter ran with the John Lasseter scandal to try to show why Pixar was so much better than Skydance.
If I were him, I'd be pissed because it's supposed to be about him and they made it all about Lasseter.
I think they were friends, too.
I don't know if they were, but I'm just saying it's kind of insulting. So they keep doing this. They can't just report in the news. They have to hurry up and make sure, because you can only think a certain way because these media outlets tell you so. Proof, who needs it? But, just because they said so, you have to remember at all times that, you should support Pixar, but not Skydance. Never Skydance because,
Because problematic. It's supposed to be an article about Pete Docter. There's his cartoon face in the first sentence. John Lasseter.
I know. It's got to be like, I wouldn't be happy if I were him. I'd be upset.
Like, you will never get out of his shadow. The proper way to do this would have been, let's talk about Pixar's future. Let's talk about Pete Docter, where he wants to take Pixar. And the very last paragraph or two, by the way,
this happened, and thankfully he
was able
steered it clear or whatever.
Right.
Did you notice this in the headlines? There's a definite, they cannot let this go. No. They have to use it at any time, and it's more often than not about getting clicks and hate views.
Yeah.
Than it is about hate views against Lasseter than it is about anything else.
Yeah, and we're seeing this, and because look, Disney is getting out Disney because they're veteran animators with their decades of experience are going out and creating animated feature films and TV shows for Disney's competition.
Basically, they're going out and starting their own things.
Yes.
Which, we're going to mention this pencil-ish thing. Or Don Bluth, too. Don Bluth first. Don Bluth, because he's been doing it for years. decades.
Yeah, Don Bluth was like the OG Disney defector. He was one of Disney's best animators, and he left. But he's
So was Tim Burton.
Yeah, Tim Burton too. Actually, they fired Tim Burton like twice. And then
But they sure as hell want him when they want Nightmare Before Christmas on everything.
And they were so afraid of Nightmare Before Christmas getting pushed back on tainting the Disney brand that they released it under Touchstone. But now they want to claim it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, now they want to claim
Now
it.
it matters.
But Don Bluth, not only did he leave Disney during the height of his career, but he was incredibly successful, and he teamed up, with Steven Spielberg, and we had better animated movies from Don Bluth in the 80s than we did from Disney.
I would argue that, I was gonna say, I would argue that the ones that molded us, us personally, were in the 80s. We're all Don Bluth.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't like the Disney ones. The Disney started ramping it back up in the 90s, but Don Bluth was the one who did Secret and Nim, and he wasn't afraid to get in there and do it,
Yeah, I mean, we had Secret and Nim, we had Land Before Time, we had American Tail. All of these were huge movies. It's sad about Land Before Time.
And it was fine.
Yeah. Well, it's sad about Land Before Time because it became this stupid direct-to-DVD kiddie fodder franchise.
Yeah.
But the original movie was very, very good. And, it's just, and then Anastasia, which I actually would put up against any of Disney's, princess
Technically,
movies.
she's a princess now, but Disney princess because they bought
She got
Fox.
bought,
But now they have this, we're going to mention this Pencilish real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so a friend Sarah sent this over, and some people were talking about this, that there's this Pencilish Animation Studios, and it's done by
Tom Bancroft?
yes.
Yeah.
And they're talking about their board, how their board, but I still can't find who's all on their board. But anyway, they keep talking about their board. And they're trying to crowdfund now their animation studio by getting investors to invest in it. Now, the one thing I will say that I would caution him on is that the way it's kind of being worded, it could lead him to some issues.
Yeah.
If people are backing it because they think that if they pay $100, that means that they have a say in, they can pitch their ideas.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch this. Now I don't have anything against Tom Bancroft. I think I've actually.
I'm saying he's gonna be. He's opened himself up to some weirdness.
Because the way it's being pitched, Bancroft Studios here is that it's basically the old "let me help you help me" kind of attitude, where he's going on in his video about all these great things they're going to make together. Well, the problem with that is I think a lot of people that are going to support this think that you're going to take my pitches and you're going to animate my stuff
and you're going to let
$100.
Maybe give me a job, and then but he and his board is like, we're going to do our stuff and you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, but that's kind of how it usually works,
Yeah.
But he is another Disney veteran. He worked on Mulan. He worked on Lion King. I mean, Bancroft's been around for a long time. He's another guy, presumably over 40, who's been displaced by the industry. So we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more individuals, with massive skill sets try to crowdfund or just outright start their own animation studios, which as an animation fan, it's a great time to be an animation fan.
Yes.
Because Disney's not going to greenlight a lot of this stuff.
Mm-mm.
They don't seem to really give a shit about animation anymore.
But nothing that's being done isn't something that's just been invented. There's a lot of people who do stuff for YouTube all the time, and they do it very well and make quite a bit of money for doing it. It's not a new idea. It's actually been done very well already. But I just saying, he needs to watch how he's wording it, because I know this is going to get people in there. And just from the comments, people who are back to, I was an animation student, I was this. I'm like, you got to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish him well, but yeah, I'm kind of like, I was like that too. We're watching the video, I'm like, I know.
Oh, dude, you're opening yourself up to issues.
Yeah, because we had people in the comments. We were looking at the comments, and people were like, I've always wanted to get my foot in the door in animation. Here's $100. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. You need to be a little clearer.
And they do say, well, maybe we'll look at one of your ideas. And I'm like, oh my God, don't
do that. You have no idea. You're opening up Pandora's box. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
However, if you want to invest in an animation studio for somebody who's over 40 who is starting their own thing, then this might be for you. But just understand that they are under no obligation to listen to your pitch.
That is true.
Make your stuff. or to hire you.
So they've got some different. Now this might be another ding against him too. Just I mean, not to.
Oh yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, not to bring up unpleasantness, but Jake Parker apparently is on the board, and he's one of the investors.
He's the guy who got accused of plagiarizing.
Yeah, he got accused of plagiarizing an art book last year.
After he trademarked Inktober and tried to put rules on it so no one could use it.
But he's again from that school of, I call it let me help you help me, where he's like, I will teach you how to be like me, but pay me to do that. It
reminds me of these people that you can pay me to tell you you're wonderful, and basically it's just tell you everything you want to hear, and not be realistic, but tell you everything you want to hear because you'll give me money if I do it. The raw people. That's what it reminds me of. But if you want to invest in an animation studio and help people that are over 40 starting their own thing, there you go. Just be aware that doesn't mean that you're going to get a gig.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, if it's that easy, dude, I'd drop like 10, 20 grand on you right now. But I don't think they're going to pick up any of our ideas. So.
No.
Oh,
well. I don't know we're going to get 10 or 20 grand right now.
I just...
Just bend over and pull it out of my butt.
We'll crowdfund the money to give their crowdfunder.
That's right.
I'm
like, good luck finding that. I'm just going to go to the couch and pull that right out.
That seems to be the magic go-to, though. You got why? Because that's the thing, too. Like, there's a finite amount of money that people can give to crowdfunding. And we're going to do another video talking about Kickstarter and comics and all that, too. But there is a finite amount of money that's going around. So it's like eventually people are going to be
like water. All the water in the world exists in different forms, but you're never going to have more water. It just is recycled. It's like that, but with money.
And sometimes it's just piss and it's unusable.
That's right. No, it can be recycled.
It could be recycled, but you don't want to drink piss. Anyway.
Not that you're saying this is piss.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying there's only so much money to go around, and eventually people are going to get burnt out on everybody doing crowdfunders and stuff. We're seeing a lot of people in animation though relying more on Kickstarter and whatnot to do animated projects because a lot of the studios aren't either. They're greenlighting stuff that's frankly cheap to make. Mm-hmm. Or
Cartoon Network.
Yeah, or in sci-fi and stuff like that. Or they're not hiring people of a certain age, which it is a thing. It is a thing.
Yeah, like someone shared this on our on the Clownfish, the Reef, and this is what this sums up right here, guys. Cartoon Network in the 90s, Cartoon Network in the late 2000s, Cartoon Network now. It's like there you go. That image perfectly sums it up right there.
Yeah, that is entirely accurate. But I think it would be a shame to
let Kevin.
Denise? It's Denise.
I don't know what her name is, but I was thinking like and Steven. I was like, and Kevin. Anyway. Boo!
Yeah. Oh God, Godzilla roar. But yeah, if you want to back older creators, they're out there for sure. Again, I don't think a lot of these people are not choosing to retire. I think that choice is being made for them.
So if you're somebody who wants to do animation, which it seems like everybody and their brother thinks they're going to be a storyboard artist or whatever, keep this in mind that you might want a backup plan because. Some people will be able to start their own company and go to something else, but it sounds like a lot of people move to other jobs because animation burns you out and there's not a lot of money in it. And then when you hit 40, you're old.
Yeah. Well, now the flip side of that. Okay. I want to talk real quick about Fred Seibert from Frederick.
Oh yeah.
So now his career trajectory was not orthodox. He worked in like marketing and he was working at MTV and stuff like that. But Frederator, which is behind Adventure Time, Fred Seibert, as I recall from an interview with him, he did not start working in the animation industry until he was in his mid 40s. He wound up being put in charge of Cartoon Network, and he was the one who made the calls on like Powerpuff Girls and all these other good Cartoon Network shows that you remember. And he's still working, doing that stuff now. And I think he's 60s or 70s.
How about Don Rosa?
Don Rosa, yeah. Now this is comics. He didn't start working on Duck Comics until he was about 40. Mm-hmm. It was actually his second career. He worked for his family's construction company. They had a construction company or a hardware store or something. And he's like, I don't want to do this. I want to make Uncle Scrooge comics. And that's what he did. He's like, I'm just going to quit my job and I'm going to make Duck Comics. So you
it
can
happens.
do it.
And us. Sue.
So, all right. So we're going to wrap this one up. All right, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.